the fucking box! That's it, man. Game over, man. Game over.
Well, he really hit the shit out of that one, didn't he?
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to Nintendo Walkthrough Interviews. Today we'll be looking at none other than Batman the video game for Nintendo. Batman was released in February of 1990 in North America, developed and produced by Sunsoft, who are most remembered for their music and sound. Second only to maybe Capcom, they had some great tunes along the way. They released 13 titles for the NES library, with some awesome games like Blaster Master and Super Spy Hunter, with some equally bad turds like Platoon and Xenophobe. I feel like my reviews up to this point have been about games that are rather obscure, so I wanted to look fondly back at a game I played a lot as a kid and see if it still holds up today. As part of this, I wanted to touch on the 1989 Batman movie directed by Tim Burton starring Michael Keaton to see where the parallels lie with the game. So, without any further ado, Batman the video game. Let's get after it. Batman was first introduced in Detective Comics issue number 27 in 1939. I never read the comics but was fortunate enough to catch reruns of the classic Batman TV series starring Adam West and Burt Ward. The campy Batman movie of 1966 was the first full-length theatrical film based on the comic book character.
Some days you just can't get rid of a bomb.
DC churned out hundreds of comics during the 70s and 80s, but it wasn't until the end of the decade when Warner Brothers threw up the bat signal with their full-length feature film in 1989, simply titled Batman. The film portrays a bleak Gotham City with a somber atmosphere and an enigmatic superhero lurking in the shadows. This dark tone is now commonplace for today's Batman, due in large part to Christopher Nolan. But before Nolan and Shoemaker, Tim Burton held the reins as director thanks to his success with Pee-wee's Big Adventure in 1985, which landed him the director billet for Batman. It's amazing to think that Warner Brothers took such a gamble on Burton, considering Pee-wee's Big Adventure was a comedy and the triumph of Beetlejuice had not yet emerged. Burton was able to use Batman as a vehicle to display his creative art design as a canvas on the big screen. We don't see the true breadth of his artistic vision until the sequel in 1992's Batman Returns. But admittedly, his style was very polarizing for moviegoers, many of which were turned off by it. At least his bizarre perception of Gotham City was a fresh take on the superhero genre, with a sleek and mysterious Batman that every kid wanted to emulate. Just like the director's spot, the choice of Michael Keaton to play Batman was an equally risky decision by the studio, but with the popularity of everyman Bruce Willis in Die Hard, there was proof that moviegoers didn't need a macho bodybuilder to carry the film. I think Keaton did an acceptable job as Batman, with enough intrigue and stoic grace to embody our beloved Caped Crusader.
Who are you?
Oh, sorry, Bruce Wayne.
I'm Batman. But audiences were still apprehensive on the leading man, especially when seeing his manic performance as Beetlejuice in the year prior. I do enjoy how there's hints of Beetlejuice that spill over to his Bruce Wayne character.
And he had us.
Right shot! Now you want to get nuts! Come on! Not to mention the fact that you're talking to a dead guy! Now what do you think? You think I'm qualified?
Batman's love interest is Vicky Vale, played by the stunning Kim Basinger, who up to that point was muddling in mediocre films like No Mercy with Richard Gere and Blind Date with Bruce Willis. Basinger is an ideal choice as a lead actress, but the chemistry between her and Michael Keaton falls flat.
And all this stuff really doesn't seem like you at all.
Some of it is very much me. Some of it isn't.
And what kind of billionaire says sorry with two wilted carnations? In retrospect, I believe Mickey Rourke of the 80s would have been a prime candidate for Batman, especially with his tough guy grit and proven on-scene romance with Basinger in the 1986 movie 9.5 Weeks. Even Gotham's smart-mouthed reporter Alexander Knox displays some sparks with Vicky Vale. The duo have a couple of fun moments, and their interactions look genuine on screen. Knox is played by the snarky yet likable Robert Wuhl, who adds some much-needed levity to the sometimes dreary film. I also admired Wuhl's performance in the best baseball movie of all time, Bull Durham.
Do you know what that makes you? Larry?
Lollygaggers.
Lollygaggers.
The last major character is the diabolical, wisecracking Joker, played by the illustrious Jack Nicholson.
Joker.
Apparently, Jack used his star power to secure some hefty financial stipulations prior to joining the cast. His contract with Warner Brothers paid off royally, ultimately earning him $50 million from the $400 million in box office sales. His performance is top-notch as a psychotic Jack Napier turned Joker. Every scene with him is a pure joy to watch, and I truly feel that he ad-libbed nearly all of his lines.
We mustn't compare ourselves to regular people. We're artists.
I'm an artist. You give me a fucking tuber, I'll get you something out of it.
While Heath Ledger won the Oscar, I believe Nicholson's performance is second to none, as he played a criminal, mutating to a villain, disguised as a politician.
I'm a dude playing a dude disguised as another dude.
For Joker's backstory, I do appreciate that the film stayed anchored to the DC source material of the previous generation. The film adapts the Joker origin story from the 1951 comic titled The Man Behind the Red Hood, illustrating how Batman's actions resulted in Jack plummeting to a vat of Axis chemical acid. The acid bath transforms him into a pale-faced, green-haired Joker we've come to love. The chemical plant was just one of the set designs unique to Burton's vision of Gotham. Every aspect of the city has a cold, industrial feel, reminiscent of the 1927 science fiction film Metropolis, which was light years ahead of its time. I enjoyed the visuals, but it was evident that most of the filming occurred on some type of studio backlot. It didn't feel like an expansive city, more like the same downtown street shown over and over again, like a smaller version of Hill Valley shown in Back to the Future. I mean, in 4 major scenes throughout the movie, the Gotham City Hall set piece was used as a backdrop. They framed so many shots with City Hall that even Law & Order's getting jealous. And the lack of people and extras just made the city feel artificial. I mean, how many parades do you know where the pedestrians have to walk alongside the floats? Understandably, the production cost was always a concern for a large-scale superhero film. What began as a $30 million budget bloated to nearly $50 million, mostly to cover special effects and Jack Nicholson's paycheck. The action scenes were sparse, but very captivating when they did occur. As a kid, I was enamored by all the Bat gadgets. Reviewing the movie today though, the specificity of the tools seemed ludicrous, like a clamp on the front of the Batplane that cuts balloon cables. Just like Liam Neeson, Batman appears to have a very specific set of skills.
What I do have are a very particular set of skills.
I remember enjoying the film as a kid, which is why I was enthralled with all the oversaturated merchandise that flooded our Toys R Us. In addition to action figures, trading cards, and comic books, the real allure for kids was getting their hands on the Batman video game for Nintendo. Cutscenes in video games are always an added bonus, giving Sunsoft more opportunities to illustrate their music prowess. So take a second and soak in that Sunsoft soundtrack with music composed by Naoki Kadaka. This action platformer drops Batman right into downtown Gotham looking for a fight, with some of the most satisfying hit indications turning foes into dust. Holding down allows Batman to crouch under most gunfire. You can also press the start button to cycle from your punch to 3 projectile weapons, either the spear gun, the batarang, or the dirk. It's called the Dirk?
Oh, Durka.
Fallen enemies will sometimes drop a heart. Picking up the item will regenerate 1 increment of your power life meter shown in the upper left screen. Wall jumping is the most enjoyable feature to the game, done by tapping A next to a wall or ledge once you're airborne. However, you can't manipulate it to scale upward like in Ninja Gaiden. The game designers really incentivize the use of this wall jump, providing shortcuts as you traverse through platforms and bypass annoying enemies. Levels will sprinkle in some challenging enemies, making you utilize your projectiles, with the batarang being the most versatile. Even with the ease of the wall jump feature, the game is nice enough not to incorporate fall damage. Cause come on, you're Batman. Level knowledge plays a crucial role in later stages, knowing where the enemies are hidden, as well as those cheap bullshit traps. Oh, well hello. I don't recall a flying human moth in the movie. While the game's adversaries hardly match those in the movie, the backgrounds and cutscenes at least make a strong effort to emulate the iconic movie scenes. The game also pulls in villains straight from the Batman comic series, which is why we see Killer Moth as the boss in Stage 1. My guess is that they simply needed more variety, and they had an entire catalog of DC foes to choose from. To stomp this bug, all you gotta do is close your eyes, stick your arms out, and let him walk into you. Stage 2 begins with you infiltrating the Axis chemical factory with another crisp music soundtrack. Landing punches will stop the shakedown enemies right in their track. You can also freeze enemies in place with a rapid succession of punches which will be key to fighting bosses later on. Touching any of the green acid hurts Batman, and it looks like it's pouring out deliberately, unlike in the movie where Jack Napier cracks it open to make that spill. You can ask Jack, falling in acid is never good, but at least it's not instant death. The button inputs are very responsive, right down to the millisecond, to make those difficult wall jumps. As you see, shortcuts are very prevalent in the game, but if you miss a jump, that's just on you, it's not due to any shoddy controls. Just when you start feeling good about using the wall jump, the game makes you look like an idiot. Damn it. Come on, let's go Batman. The guy shooting the flame is also called Heatwave, a supervillain from the Flash comic book series known as Mick Rory. It seems like the developers already had enemy sprites developed, then try to loosely connect them to villains in comic books. Each of the 5 stages are broken up into sub-stages. In 2-2, you're going through the spark floor, which has jack shit to do with the movie. This level ups the ante. By having electrical current on much of the platforming, it makes you pay the price for every mistake. We're also introduced to the Javelin enemy, which likes to stiff arm you with its random long spear attack. The game begins to test your wall jumping skills by forcing you to grab the correct spot or get zapped, and the enemies camping on ledges will just jack up your rhythm.
Hey, move your ass!
Apparently this purple enemy with the Wolverine claw who keeps time jacking me is actually Night Slayer, at least according to the game manual. While he looks nothing like the comic, I still think it's pretty cool that they keep introducing the DC villains throughout the game. Sometimes the game just presents unwinnable situations. Will Batman survive? Can he make the jump? We'll find out. No, he can't. These mobile tracker enemies are a nuisance because you gotta crouch down to hit them. Hey, well at least the death animation's pretty cool. For all my troubles, it's good to know the electricity doesn't discriminate with enemies either, so just be patient with them. Is it an impossible gap? Not if I use the wall jump. And the game does a decent job at not respawning enemies right away, giving Batman a chance to maneuver. Next up is the conveyor belt level, which looks like a dank warehouse from TMNT. The last new enemy on the stage is the Drop Claw, who oddly enough, drops claws. These metallic ankle biters are a pain in the ass because they can run faster than Batman. At certain points, you'll have to take leaps of faith into the abyss. It's always trial and error the first time until you understand where the spikes and enemies are. You have to get through that first cheap death. The game's color palette usually displays a high contrast to determine what is a platform and what is solely the background. This level is the exception to that rule, as everything has a burnt turd color to it. As you run through the door, you're now face to face with the boss, known simply as Machine Intelligence.
Greetings, Mr. Johnston.
The boss is broken up into 3 compartments. First, whip out your spear gun, which is the only time in the game it's actually useful. Crouch down and start shooting. You'll get a nice twofer by taking out both cannons with shots to the middle. Hop across the conveyor belt, bebop up to that top ledge, being mindful of the electric wall on the right side, turn around and start throwing dirk shots at the electric control center. Just make sure you have plenty of ammo going into this fight. And I'm dead.
That was bad intelligence. Very bad intelligence.
I'm sorry.
No big deal, it just takes a little practice. When you're done taking out the first 2 compartments, it'll open up the nerve center. All you gotta do is get real close, crouch down to avoid the gunfire, and just start punching in between the shots. Easy as that. We'll then get another iconic cutscene for the kiddos.
You ever dance with the devil in the pale moonlight?
Rolling into stage 3, this is where enemies really get on your nerves. With no upward attack, you're pretty much helpless from their bombardment. But even in the chaos, can we take a second to appreciate Batman's lovely jaunt? This is the first time we see the Jader villain, an extremely agile mutant that jumps around like a Nancy and is super hard to kill.
Come on, stop trying to hit me and hit me.
Yup, he's a pain in the ass. One strategy when dealing with those damn Jaders is have them barely exposed on the screen. That way you can still damage them with your dirk, but they won't advance on you. Stage 3 is a complete departure from the movie's plot, but that's okay. Even though Batman successfully destroyed the chemical factory, he's caught in a trap and dropped into an underground conduit, which is a network of sewers connecting all of Gotham City. Well, that's how they wrote it in the manual. And in level 3-2, for whatever reason, the green stuff doesn't hurt you. I guess it's just runoff from the St. Patty's Day parade. There's a few times where the level design shows a platform just out of reach. It looks like a secret, but we'll never know, because the developers are assholes. Just don't fall into those fan blades. And I gotta say, I love doing these leaps of faith. Because this city needs me. Now on to the caverns of level 3-3. Another formidable foe to keep at bay is the EEV, equipped with a cannon fireball of doom and a rapid rate of fire. It's funny to think that in the previous level you worked so hard to get to the bottom, now you just gotta scale right back up again. Well, hello again, Mr. Heatwave. Looks like we're playing the waiting game. Sometimes the game presents enemy weapons in conjunction with platforming obstacles, so just like Double Dutch, you gotta wait for the exact moment to strike. Damn it, I'm the worst at this. Come on, get the hearts. Just get up there. No! Then you end up falling and have to do the same shit all over again. Alright, one last Turd Ferguson I gotta take care of before the boss. Whew, I got really lucky on that last shot. Gotta be really careful, I only got one hit bar left and I gotta make it to the boss. And nobody's home, perfect. Alright, made it to the boss with one shred of health. I just gotta play this right. Well, that could have gone better. This DC supervillain is aptly named the Electrocutioner. Even though he looks nothing like the comic, he has a Freddy Krueger claw and a plasma sword that blasts a megavolt killer beam. Obviously. A full life and a fury of battering is the best method to pull the plug on the Electrocutioner, and one step closer to the Joker.
Gentlemen, let's broaden our mind.
Stage 4 starts out in Joker's research laboratory, and you gotta love that music. It sounds kinda like Simon's Quest, Castlevania 2, but with just a little slower cadence. One of Joker's many hideouts, the contaminated laboratory has an array of futuristic life samples thanks to genetic engineering. I wouldn't really call it a hideout if you have your face blasted on multiple big screen TVs. And speaking of Joker, I want to touch on Sunsoft's follow-up game titled Batman: Return of the Joker, with one of the best box arts for the NES library. The game came out at the tail end of 1991, 6 months prior to the movie sequel release. Just like its predecessor, the game is a side-scrolling platformer which has Batman hunting down Joker before he tries to destroy Gotham City. A plotline you'll see time and time again in pretty much any Batman video game. In this sequel, it appears Batman ate some of whatever Alice in Wonderland did, making him nearly twice the size as his former character sprite. The visuals in Return of the Joker are much more vibrant this time around, with background colors looking like a Lisa Frank Trapper Keeper. Sunsoft delivers again in the music department, releasing some of the catchiest tunes in retro games. Domo arigato, Mr. Nyoki Kadaka. Instead of Fizz, Batman uses a wrist cannon with collectible upgrades to vanquish his enemies. This upgrade feature can be troublesome at times, just like accidentally replacing your spread gun in Contra with that puny laser. Because Batman is so large on screen, it leaves a very limited space to react to enemies coming into frame. Furthermore, the controls are not nearly as snappy as the original, making the movements clunky and simply unamusing. Now on to the thermal processing plant in stage 4-3, just in time for a Mega Man 2 reference. Big surprise there. Just like in the previous stage, you descend all the way to the bottom just to climb your way back out, but now instead of acid, you're dealing with fire. The game makes you pay the price if you miss your jump, and you'll have to work your way back up like 3 or 4 times. I always seem to compound my mistakes and plummet back to the fucking bottom. But what really sucks is getting knocked back by the enemies.
Ah, you motherfucker!
Just like in Castlevania. Jesus, look at this. I feel like Dwight Schrute or Michael Scott trying to parkour. Oh, thank God. When you finally make it back to the top, you can use the mobile trackers from the drop claws to farm for health and ammo. The blocks with the letter B don't stand for Batman, but rather bonus points. Points that don't do shit for you. Make sure you have quick hands though. Damn it! Sometimes farming gets you in trouble. When you collect enough life, make your way to the boss, watch out for the ankle biters, and get ready for another epic showdown. The stage 4 boss is a dual container alarm which rotates along a set track. Shooting horizontally, it can quickly jack up Batman. The trick is to perch on the ledge and throw out jabs like Iron Mike. As long as you're inflicting damage, the containers won't hurt you as they pass through. When you get down to 1, it throws out a triple shot of fireballs in each direction. You're gonna have to come down to his level and finish him off with a trusty batarang. I'm down to 1 hit. Come on, don't want to restart this stage. Yes!
Yes! What's wrong with you?
The final stage is the iconic cathedral from the film. The game shows Batman touching down with a soft landing, but we all know it was really an in-flight emergency thanks to Joker's novelty-sized revolver. Look at the size of that cathedral.
It's only a model. Shh.
In the video game, the secret transmitter has led Batman to his greatest challenge, a slight departure from the film's plot, but you still end up with the same finale. The enemies are recycled once again, but it's not them I'm worried about, it's the goddamn cranks. Stage 5 is brief, but blunt in its difficulty as you pick off enemies one by one, ascending to the bell tower, with plenty of cogs and gears that test your agility and your sanity. I mean, just look at this part, how am I not supposed to get hurt? Awesome. Great, one hit.
This is such a crock of shit!
The most difficult part is timing your jumps which offset the enemy strikes so you can actually make it onto their platform. Fun fact, this shit is ridiculous. Keep in mind, not only do you have to make it to the top of the cathedral, you also need enough life to battle back-to-back bosses.
Hoo-ah!
If you do finally make it to the top, you have one last chance to farm for health thanks to the drop claw. But even then it can be a gamble in such a precarious location. Might be better to just skip it and roll your dice with the boss. Fabulous. You really think they're going to give you Joker on a silver platter? You got to go through his henchmen first, and just like in the movie, he's going to be tough. Firebug is Joker's most trusted bodyguard who wants revenge since Batman defeated his brother. He's got 6 million-degree fireballs and a rapid punch that extends beyond Batman's reach. Having no ammo means sure death as he'll quickly corner you. The key to victory is to save ammo you've acquired throughout the level, then let loose on Firebug with your continuous batarang. He's the last card in the deck. Now on to the Joker.
Here we go.
The Joker's a true SOB. No real strategy is given other than to get in close and brawl fisticuff style. There's no set pattern on his attacks either, making it extremely frustrating to time your movement to avoid both his hand cannon and lightning strikes. What makes the Joker a notorious boss in Nintendo's lore is the fact that you first have to summon a cathedral, squash a giant firebug, then go toe-to-toe with the Joker that can take away a third of your life in one hit, all using only 3 lives. Nintendo tough for sure, but are we finished yet?
No, I'm just getting warmed up.
Now's the time to turbo fire that B button. I think you can actually land more hits than the speed of your character's punch. Another tactic is to do quick hops left and right at Joker while simultaneously punching him. This will confuse the placement of his lightning, and for me, I think it was 90% pure luck, just trying to damage him quicker than he could damage me. It wasn't pretty, but it worked. And suck it! Hey, welcome back everybody. That concludes the review of Nintendo's Batman the video game. The fun factor on the game is still there, and the music cannot be overemphasized. Everybody talks about that. I do like coming back to this game. It's been about 5 years since I took a look at it, and my brother wanted me to do this review, so I hope you enjoyed it. The game today goes for about $12 here in 2020. My biggest pet peeve in this game is a weapon select mechanic. I do love that you can select weapons real time, so you keep the flow of the game going, so you don't have to go to a pause menu to select a weapon, kind of like in Zelda. However, it's also the detriment of the game, because I'm accidentally cycling through weapons, I'm trying to throw a batarang and instead I'm throwing punches, or I want to use the dirk and now I'm shooting the spear gun. So it can get really stressful, especially when you're jumping around just trying to stay alive. I wish they would have expanded off that wall jump feature. Maybe in the sequel have some kind of like double jump or flip, or using the grappling hook, but we never saw that. Also, the length of the game is pretty short, which is understandably why it's so damn challenging. Overall, I give the game a solid 4 out of 5 stars. It's not perfect by any means. I've already talked about the great things. I mean, you can just pick it up and go. The first 3 stages are a hell of a lot of fun before you get kicked in the nuts. Every time I play it, I have a lot of fun with it, so I recommend you guys getting it. If you see it on eBay, pick it up. That's all I got for Batman. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you next time.